Hey, welcome back to another episode of Ecosystem Aces. I'm excited to be joined by Allison Munro. Allison, welcome.
Thank you, Chip. Great to be here.
Yeah, really, gosh, I'm really been looking forward to our conversation. I think it's so interesting your role. So let me introduce Allison. Allison is Chief Marketing and Ecosystem Officer at Vena Solutions. And and I'd love to sort of get into some of this in our conversation, but your background is really interesting and unique for a partnership role. You have a long history in really came up through marketing and sales roles in for a number of startups and other company, Oracle going back a few years, and so but I really am interested in this, in sort of your background and how it has applied in the and why it sort of is the right fit for you in to lead ecosystems for Vena. So with that, I think Allison, welcome. And maybe we could start with just let's talk a little bit about your current role and the things that your team are up to today.
Sounds good. I think you're right in an interesting background for a partner professional. I think where the transformation happens from partner to ecosystem is exactly what we're undergoing. And I think it really comes from this idea that I think when you do marketing right, it's an integrated approach to building value and demand and capturing that demand in market, but also delivering against that promise in your brand experience. I think when you think of ecosystem, it's very similar. So over the last, 3.5 years, we were a very sales-led organization that went through transformation to drive our inbound strategy, later to introduce ABE and really, drive this all-bound motion. When I think of ecosystem and transforming partner from a partner as a function or as a sales-led or execution component of your business to really integrating them into your go-to-market, for us, that's where the very natural fit of experience, I think, motion, strategy, and the ability to execute against that very big, ambitious goal of transforming partners from, sales execution to integrated to your go-to-market strategy actually has a very natural fit for CMOs and market leaders, as Jill Rowley likes to say. I think that's where they pair really well with experience, but it is still very new and unknown territory. And as folks sort of leading this initiative and this transformation, it's also a very exciting time.
Gosh, it is an exciting time. There is such a transformation in the industry, really, and so I'm curious, Allison, talk a little bit more about what that transformation has meant for Vena, what the journey has been.
Partners have always been core to Vena over our 11 years, of operation. I think the transformation then becomes when the light bulb goes off and you think about, how you can create greater value in market. So for us, partners have always been part of our service delivery. They've always been, part of our referral program and some of the traditional functional areas where you think partners plug into your sales organization. When you think about your platform and as your platform grows and extensibility and being able to expand that and really think about integrating partners in an end-to-end capability, right? Everything from that first point of referral right through, to a co-sell motion and being able to deliver your product or service. In fact, it doesn't always have to be your part of the product or service. So for us, we've, transformed over the last 5 or 6 years from an FP&A product to a complete planning platform. And with the innovation through our APIs and further extensibility capabilities, it unlocks greater opportunities for our existing partners, but as well future partners and technology partners to, be able to create that multiplier you talk so much about, which is really being able to bring more value, not only to current systems and partners that, our prospects and shared prospects and customers are already working with, but really building that trust and extended value. And that has been, the transformation as we think about how we used to work with partners and how our product and platform has evolved and what that means for, our customers. And working back from there, it means for our customers and the partners they trust and the platforms and technology they trust, which is obviously not just Vena. It's Vena plus all of the systems that surround that customer, in their ecosystem and the way they work. And for us as an organization is how do we really create that seamless, frictionless experience from awareness through to purchase and beyond into our shared customers' growth journey. And thinking about how you work very closely with partners and how your strategy develops alongside your platform strategy, I think is a big driver for us in our transformation we're driving today.
So partnering, the transformation from to, if we think about it, to, in simplistic terms, partnering was more sales-led, resell kind of partnering in services, to now much more integrated. Let's get our product teams together. Let's look at roadmaps, shared roadmaps, and start to build technology and then go to market together. Am I describing that right?
Yeah, I think it's, I think that a simple version, I love the from to, it's the way my brain thinks as well. It's, from sales execution, to integrated go to market. And so, yes, looking at how our product roadmaps align, but what's really exciting with the Vena platform is we're also working with our partners to co-innovate on and with our platform. And therefore we can partner with and sell with and market with, but also through our partners, giving that, multiplier of value around our platform. And that's been fairly new for us in the last year, but a really exciting, initiative that we have, not only for our partners and how they can unlock their expertise in our platform in specific industries or use cases within, complete planning, but also, what they can do with our platform based on their expertise that they can bring to the market for our customers and our prospects, is really starting to increase significant value, all around, which is really where we're really excited about where we're going. And then our next level will be, to additional technology partners when you think of a true reseller program. But we're working very closely with our current partners through our platform and our services because our brand is really important, to us and our experience. And we share that with our partners. And so that threads through everything from driving awareness right through, to how we engage, but also how we, deliver, deploy, and help our customers grow with the Vena platform, but also connected to their existing ecosystem of finance tech, of which we know there's over 80 pieces of technology our ideal customer profile is using. We also know they're already working with 7 partners and they're, a part of 6 or 8 communities. So, a nod to Alan Adler and yourself, Chip, who talk about this a lot. You can't think of partners just as a single point of the customer journey or a single point of value. It's really about integrating your value and your partner's value and extending that to deliver more value, to the market and ultimately to your customers.
Yeah, I love that. So and how much, clearly you have, technology like integration, API, partners where you're building solutions together that way. How much, I'm curious, how much some of your, I imagine as you're talking about this, that some of your services partners are also creating IP of their own on your platform. It may not be actually technology. It might be like best practices or templates that are specific for certain industries, or is that accurate as well?
That's exactly. So when you think about Vena with our Excel interface, it's the canvas of all finance pros. And so absolutely our partners in either particular industries or use cases are able to develop templates and data models and connectors to source systems, where they have deep expertise to be able to help bring that value to market, which is I think it's a great extension of value for our services partners. It's not just about implementation, and additional ongoing services. It's true value based on their expertise. So combine the value of Vena with a partner, and that's where you get a true fit.
I love that. So I'm curious, just sort of, so are some of them services partners that you've had for a while and you're just sort of starting to bring those, capabilities to market and then go into market together? Or are you also bringing in new partners that are developing some of those things?
Both.
Maybe.
So,
Yeah.
we had a lot of great early interest from our partners in, the word pilot, but picking from a few of our top partners who had the deep knowledge and expertise, had the trust and, credibility, who understood our brand and our customer experience, to think about their next level of how they co-innovate with Vena and on our platform. What we're unlocking now is how we go to market together, and how, we're now starting to talk about, as we mature in our own ABM and ABE strategy, is how do we start to do that with our partners around specific identified accounts. So, we're crossing over different ICP segments. We have the co-innovation. This is where marketing and ecosystem fit very nicely, because you're starting from a market need and demand, identifying the partner that has that expertise and those capabilities, pairing that with Vena's maturity and go to market as well as their expertise. And now we're teeing up to launch our ABM or ABE program as we evolve to what will be our near bound, in identifying those overlaps accounts and being able to really execute an end-to-end experience for our partners. But again, what that means, for our customers and potential customers, is they're really working with Vena and our partner throughout, the experience. But our partners also enabled to go out and generate their own demand with their own customers with the support of Vena, both from a product and services as well as sales and marketing experience. And so, yes, right now we're working with top partners and we have great interest from existing, but there's a new value proposition when you go to market against your IPP on the criteria we're looking for, which fits into our go to market. So it changes the conversation when you're starting business development plans with partners on the value that you can co-create in market, and how that actually translates to revenue for our partner, and not just for the ISV or a platform partner.
Gosh, I love this. This is just exciting.
It is. It's exciting, but I think, as we've talked about before, it's not without its change management, and how it really is transformational in how one idea to have a strategy, and then to drive execution. And bring that to market.
That's a whole other thing. So let's talk about that. So you have Vena has about 100 partners. How has that process gone? So, sort of, you're trying to, there's so many pieces to change management. You talk about change management, there's so many, so you have to educate your internal teams, you have to educate the partners, bring them along. You're bringing on new partners. What has that process been like, the change management process, to get to where you're going?
I think it's always tougher than you think, no matter how experienced you are in change management. Again, I think from a marketing perspective, we gain a lot of experience in driving change management around strategy. So marketers are notorious for running around using acronyms that people don't understand. And, what is inbound? If you ask a group of marketers, part of components of our strategy and why we're doing them, what they will achieve, you'll have buy-in. Even then, as we transform from outbound to inbound to ABE, sorry, 1 second. I had to spend a lot of time educating not only the marketing team, but the rest of the business on the why. What does this mean? Why are we doing this? And not from a point of view, maybe as, an experienced expert on your strategy, but really breaking down, the why and the components, and what it means, not only for the business, but what it means to individuals in sales, in business development, in our partner team. I think the same is true for ecosystem. You can, and part of my learnings, there's one CMO, I wish I could remember her name. She published a book, Diary of a New CMO. I wouldn't jump on that bandwagon, but if I think of Diary of a New Ecosystem Officer, it might be as clear to you, and you're completely immersed in the community and amongst peers that are having these conversations. It's very difficult, forget execution, to take the concept and the strategy and have it make sense for people that are not thinking about this every day, but also to think about what it means to change the way people work, organization, how we incentivize different teams and how that changes, what it means for workflow management and process, like just internally on the change that's required there. Also the bets you have to make in, what is your financial model of where revenue is coming from and when, based on the investments you're making, and making sure that those are the right caliber to growth. So there's a lot, but I would say I probably got out of the gates this time last year and was really excited about the opportunity and, deck in hand and reason why. And probably a bit of a slower start initially, because the friction you run into is bringing people along and helping them understand what it means to them and what it means, for the short term and the long term. So there's a lot of learnings in there. Maybe we'll dive into one day or a year from now in retrospect, but it's part of the job as well. It's a new concept, a new strategy. And it's not universally defined. If you look up ecosystem, you're going to find 12 different thought leadership perspectives and probably one speaking about the ocean. So how do you, build trust and credibility? Yeah. How do you build trust and credibility in the strategy and point to previous organizations that have done this and how it's going to work and what it means for you? There's a bit of a leap of faith and trust you need to build, and incremental, short-term, near-term, long-term goals that you need to set out and achieve. Rather than sort of the big reveal or the big achievement in the end.
Yeah, and I think that's you're so right. It's any kind of change management, but certainly, when you're trying to make big changes like this to the organization, it's like starting with the why. The Simon Sinek kind of thing, but it's like winning hearts and minds on, how do you get people there so that you're not sort of forcing people, but they're like, oh, this makes sense, not just to you and to the company, but also to my role and how it impacts me and how it can help with my goals.
100%.
Yeah.
And that might mean you slow down to speed up, as we've also heard in other quotes. Yeah, it's definitely a necessary step.
Yeah. So I'd love to also, Allison, if you could share with us, having such a strong marketing background and coming from, with that as a background and longtime marketer, how has that helped you in the role, and where do you see sort of parallels, and also maybe where can other partner leaders learn from your sort of marketing mind as you're working with as you're building this partner ecosystem for Vena?
Yeah, I mean, those are all big questions. That's a big question. We probably could do a couple sessions on that. I'll try to approach it from a simple view. I think, and actually, I've always viewed marketing as the fabric of an organization. So we all as marketers went through a transformation, with the advent of marketing automation to really attribute action and activity to impact and revenue. And that required alignment with sales and business development. And if you, started to do that really well, it was, to the full customer journey and experience, tying into CS and services. And then, bringing in your product connection of not only maybe informing what the product needs and the product trends and what's happening, but prioritizing the roadmap. It feels like a marketing structure and a modern marketing professional would be aligned to understanding not only what's in it for me and my function and silo, but the why for you. Right. So think about, the MQL conundrum, and I'm doing all these leads and I'm throwing over to the fence, and the BDR goes, so what? I think there's a parallel there, or the sales team. I think there's a parallel there in, product being a single, or partner rather, being a single function and trying to drive change and influence across the business, aligned to how you go to market. And go to market is not one department. And so one of the phrases I love, I think, again, it's been Jill and Alan who have come up with this idea. But if you think of marketing as the fabric of any organization and threading partner throughout, that is sort of my best analogy of why this is a perfect pairing. But I do think, other departments, what they can really learn is what I'm doing, what impact is it driving in my cross-functional or in other department goals? Why does what I do matter to you? Think about the product roadmap. I'm sure we've all been in organizations where the product roadmap has been developed for every other reason other than revenue. As in, I'm actually going to hold myself accountable to this revenue, and that's why we're going to invest in this product. Marketing, I'm going to invest in this activity to drive this pipeline. not just those early indicators. I think having that understanding and that practice of, again, bringing people along, but being able to tie to business impact and not departmental impact is really the transformation I'm seeing a lot of partner leaders go through, which is not just about my partner acquisition targets or my partner sourced revenue or my partner attach rate. It really becomes, how are our partners helping us to drive the business forward? Both generate demand and value, but also additional experience and brand, bring our brand to life as part of our ecosystem and servicing our customer rather than a line item on a P&L.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it echoes, we had Greg Serafin from EY on a recent EBS event, and I actually I interviewed him at Sapphire last week. And his thesis and his, he talks a lot about focus on delivering value versus like, let's get to a revenue number. Like, the revenue will follow, but make sure that you're delivering value together as partners. Which is the whole process that you're talking about, co-creating, bringing it to market, and then delivering value for your shared customers.
Yes, I think the difference in a big part of the transformation is removing yourself out of the center of the ecosystem and putting your customer in the center of that ecosystem. I can certainly talk about our technology ecosystem, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about our customer at the center and how we create value, to your point, for that customer as a better together approach, which means they have to deal maybe with less people. They have to look at 45 less blogs. They don't have to do competitive evaluation across 75 solutions. If you just even think about what it takes to buy technology and services, I think part of eliminating that for our buyer, but also, being able to bring more value through your product and your partners and your services to that audience is really the transformation. It's not about Vena. It's about our customer and the partners they currently work with, the technology they currently have, and the communities they're a part of, and how we integrate our value into their ecosystem.
Yeah, it's awesome. So let's talk about you've created solutions together, you're going to market together. Now, ultimately, you're co-selling with those partners. Talk a little bit about how that's working, because that's part of the transformation as well, sort of going from this sort of more pure resell to co-selling and aligning the sales teams and making sure that everybody knows what the value each other is bringing, and enablement and all those things. Can you talk a little bit about how that process has gone and how is it being received by your teams and by partners?
Yeah, and that process, I think, is always still going if you're doing it right. And, we're on the early stages of co-innovation, which are going very well, but we've always had a co-sell motion. I think the difference is, instead of bringing in partners later in the stage and as an ad-needed basis, again, we're really thinking about it at the front. So how do we think about what our shared customer or future customer needs and how we'll service them together? As marketer, as ecosystem, as partner, I think we're always focused on how do we build trust outside the organization. I think we often overlook, how do we build trust inside the organization? And I think that means trust of your sales organization, trusting your partners, and vice versa. And I think that takes a little more effort than most people realize. So, at a very sort of 1.0 level, it's being able to you showcase your partners to your sales team, let them know what value they build and why they should care. When you go further, you can really start to map your partners in a systematic and operationalized way in your CRM and other tools, to be able to start to say, this partner fits with this prospect and it does that in an automatic way, and why. And so you can start to really think about how you're going to service and build value for that future customer at the beginning, versus I'm a sales rep that's halfway through a sales cycle and I have a gap and I need this person to come in and help me. And I think that's a change. And the number one thing, I think there's it's marketing, it's internal marketing. It's driving awareness, it's building trust, and building the operationalized systems to make it so that it's part of the way our teams are working and have the transparency and the information they need within the environments they work in, rather than having to recreate a different wheel. And that goes back to my favorite word, which is integrated. How do you integrate your partners into your systems, your people, and your technology to deliver more value versus run a separate stream, to drive this new initiative? And that's why I say, I think we have a saying echoed by Hunter Madeley, our CEO, which is better, never best. And we believe and live that in all we do. And so I think we're optimizing that. I think we have a number of great partners and a number of great sellers who really understand the value that our partners create for our shared future customers. I think there's always work to be done on how we can, again, optimize that by, relationships, but people, process, and technology.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know that better than anybody. I would think.
It does seem that, some AEs, some regions, some product teams, will pick things up earlier, right? And see a big win. And then you've got to sort of feature like, hey, this really works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, customer stories or shared win announcements. Again, everything we're doing from a marketing perspective, think about a marketer who, had to chase down the AE to, get their contacts involved in the nurture. As in this, I can do it better on my own. I don't want anybody to talk to my prospect. I want to control the entire experience. I am a one-person show versus transforming that sales organization to understand how sales, marketing, business development, products, CS, services, and partners all actually, create that force multiplier for our future customer. It's the same motion and the same transformation. I think requires a lot of the same methodology to driving that transformation.
Yeah. How are you going to, or how are you currently planning or thinking about measuring?
I knew that was the question you were going to ask. Measuring what? So we have one of the biggest things we had to do as part, and are still doing as part of our ecosystem strategy, is what are the KPIs? I think, what we talked about a little earlier is I'm sure most partner professionals have a partner sourced revenue KPI, and that's that. Work that back from revenue. You get pipeline, how many leads, how many referrals, what is the partner doing for us, right? How do you change that to not only think about, everything from, of course, revenue generated with and through the partner and your attach rates, and I think your revenue KPIs, but, really looking more from an engagement lens of how do we think about ramp time and onboarding? How do we think about partner productivity? How do we think about and measure how we're enabling our partners to generate revenue and achieve their goals against our partner business development plans, which is going from that single KPI that I think often accompanies a sales-led go-to-market, whether it's marketing or partner or sales, and really thinking about, yes, your full funnel, but also your engagement, your experience, layering in all of those early and lagging indicators that demonstrate, by going back to your point, the value we've created, not only for the market, but for our partners. How do we make sure that we're helping our partners deliver against their business goals as well as them helping to achieve ours, and that we've enabled them and supported them in the best way they can to achieve those goals? And again, those goals being not just revenue, but ramp time, their ability to be productive, their engagement rates as we think about going near bound and all bound. How are we helping them leverage our marketing content to actually resonate with the audience they're engaging with, and how we help them improve, their business metrics is the list we're looking at. It's funny, we actually, Jennifer, who's recently joined as our senior director of ecosystem, that was one of the challenges she took on. And our first KPI list was probably 35 metrics of all the things we wanted to measure. And so internally, we're going through the conversation, okay, what are the top 3, 5, and 10, and how do we make sure it's anchored in enablement, onboarding, satisfaction, and revenue as we look at, the full life cycle and productivity of our partner ecosystem.
Yeah, it's fantastic. In other words, it's not easy.
No. No. And it's not even just the KPIs, right? Then you've got to make sure that people's the way they're compensated and incentivized and measured aligns to those KPIs. And I think that's where a lot of healthy tension and transformation also emerges.
Yeah.
So it's not easy. It's not an overnight it requires passion and patience in executing the strategy, but it's been really great to see the transformation happening, as we're about 10, 11 months into our ecosystem real commitment with my role and at the executive level. And at the board, we have these conversations. They're very much engaged. I think the entire business is excited by the strategy and what we're trying to do. And it's incredible to see all of the other functional leaders leaning in and having sort of that shared motion in our go-to-market.
That's fantastic. Gosh, congratulations. So just, it's really exciting. And I think we could talk for another hour.
I'm sure.
I think we barely scratched the surface, but maybe one other question, Allison. Any, advice that you would have, based on your prior experience, what you've learned over the last 11 months, anything that you would want to share with other partner leaders that could, has really helped you along the way?
We've talked about a few. I think outside of that one, I think it's really important to break down short-term, near-term, and long-term and have that visibility, both for yourself as well as for the business, and really aligning with other business leaders, even if it's partner leader to marketing, if it's starting to have those conversations with product is, going back to your point about the why, what does short-term success look like to give us, near-term and long-term, because it's not an overnight transformation if you're really going to do it right and set up, to actually operate and scale your business that way. So I've seen a number of partner leaders get discouraged without having sort of that immediate validation or buy-in or, success. And I think, again, in the spirit of bringing people along, there is a path. It does drive more value for your partners and your customers and therefore the market and therefore you. And I think just aligning across the business and helping educate is really important to making sure you can continue with your marathon of sprints because that's what they are.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. So short, mid, and long-term projections, goals, measurement, and the whole thing.
Yeah. Dependencies, measurement. Yeah. What does good look like? What does okay look like? And what does great look like? I think the vision is really important in the short, near, and long term to be able to continue to educate and bring people along and get them excited.
It's awesome. Allison, thank you so much for taking some time and sharing your thoughts and journey. And I'd love to, let's do this again later.
Yes.
I'd love to get an update on how things are progressing. So
yes. And thank you, Chip. I was saying earlier, I think you are the most calming podcast host I've ever had the privilege of speaking to. So thank you for that. And of course, your expertise and your commitment to moving, not only partners, but ecosystem forward.
Yeah. Awesome. Fantastic. Allison, thank you. And thank you all for joining another episode of Ecosystem Aces. And with that, I will sign off. And actually tomorrow morning, we have a pro panel with Mike Moore, Dana, oh my gosh, Mike Moore, Mark Monday, and I can't believe I'm forgetting Dana's last name. Anyway, Dana's going to be joining us as well from Eightfold, and just really exciting session tomorrow morning. Don't miss that. And we'll talk to you next time. Thanks, Allison.
Thank you, Chip. Thank you, everyone.